Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. This week, I'll be speaking with Rupal Parikh. Rupal is a veteran in the technology space, from tech startups to Fortune 500 companies. As the head of a global pre-sales team at SAP, Rupal and her team help customers achieve efficiency gains and process improvements across their critical enterprise incentive management systems through SAP's Sales Performance Management portfolio. Rupal is also an advocate of the pre-sales function. She advises technology startups on best practices in building pre-sales teams and creating value-added pre-sales technology to master the craft. Rupal is also passionate about helping elevate and connect women in their professional journeys. She is New York City's chapter director for W North, a membership network that brings together women at a high level to share their networks, knowledge, and experience. Welcome to the show, Rupal. I am so excited to have you on.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really happy to be here today.
Great, let's get started. So, as a woman in tech, can you share your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, actually, great question. So my journey, believe it or not, started back in middle school when I was offered an opportunity to participate in an internship at a tech company. Yeah, really exciting. I was selected as part of a program to promote minorities and girls in technology.
Great.
The company was previously it was called Bell Communications Research, which was in short a research and development consortium established by the Bell regional holding companies back when they were separated from AT&T. So I was exposed to computers and programming and all these types of various research. And I participated in the internship for a few summers through middle school and high school. I learned all about programming and exposed to research that ultimately was part of the foundation to many telecommunications technologies that we rely on today. So when it came time to decide what to do in college, it seemed obvious I would probably just major in computer science. So that's what I did. And in fact, I graduated during a recession. Many of my engineering major colleagues couldn't get jobs, but I got one right away, I was fortunate. And my first job out of college was a software company in tech support. And that's where I got exposure to dabbling in application software and where I learned how to speak to customers, which became later on a very valuable skill later in my career. And so I honed that skill further down the line at various companies and from Oracle to Silicon Valley startups. And I learned lots of different application and database technologies. And then if you fast forward kind of to 2006, I joined a company where I went from individual contributor to kind of a senior VP role. And over the course of 12 years, I was there and we got acquired by my present employer. And that's where I've been. So this will be kind of year 6, still running a global team and still somewhat dabbling in application technology. Overall, really enjoying the journey.
That's great. Wow, that's such an important skill to be able to speak to customers. And I'm so glad you realized that early on, because a lot of people in tech sometimes have challenges with that.
Exactly right. That's so true.
Yeah. So you do a lot of pre-sales work. Tell us more about why this is so important.
Yeah, so it's for most of my career, I've been in that role, and it's called by many names: pre-sales, or sales consultants, or sales engineers, solution advisors. The list goes on. I'm not sure if anyone really knows when or how the role was created in the industry. I think it's probably a long time ago, and it was created to provide support to sales reps during a sales cycle. And pre-sales provides pretty valuable technical expertise, like product knowledge and resources, to ensure that the sales representatives are prepared to effectively sell their products or services, right? So let's say the company is selling software or hardware or manufacturing equipment or medical devices, you name the industry. The sales reps themselves focus on meeting their revenue targets and closing deals, right? That's what they do. Pre-sales provides invaluable support during the sales cycle. They help sell the vision and help sell the solution because they have what I like to call an artful combination of technical prowess and selling skills. And this really helps to build the bridge to the customer or prospect because they're becoming the trusted advisor, right? Pre-sales, they're not necessarily on a quota. So customers tend to establish a different kind of trust with them, right? They're a little more trusting, they know that they're going to give you the technical information versus just the sales answer.
Mhm,
So I really
mhm.
love the role, in that
I
sense.
think
And
that's so
that's why I'm
important.
still doing it
That's
today.
right.
Yeah.
That's so important because the technical part really builds that trust. If you know
Yes.
the technology behind it and can explain that as part of your pre-sales process, you're
Mhm.
going to get the deal. It's just so
Exactly.
much better. Yep. No,
Exactly
that's
right.
great. That's so
Mhm.
great. And we know salespeople are always motivated by their comp plan, right? So
Mhm.
they always say it's like, they're monitored by this. Can
Right.
you share with us how companies can create an incentive strategy to retain and grow their top salespeople? Also,
Mhm.
any best practices around pay for performance?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic. I love talking about it. And before I begin, I just want to state that the opinions and views that I'm about to express are mine and not necessarily
Yep.
those of my employer.
Yes.
So you may have heard the phrase salespeople are coin operated,
Yep. Yep.
or
That's
or
what I was
incentive.
looking for.
Yeah, there you go, coin operated, or incentive drives behavior, which
Mhm.
has other applications beyond sales. But let's stick to the sales part of it. But basically, it means salespeople are motivated by their comp plan. They are motivated by how they get paid because that's the driving force behind how they will do their job, how they
Mhm.
perform in their job. And does it pay for them to overperform, right?
Mhm.
Because if they hit their target, will they just coast for the rest of the year or does the company pay extra when they outperform? So,
Mhm.
pay for performance in the simplest terms is a pay structure that employees use to pay their people based on how they perform in their job. And this type of structure exists pretty much everywhere you look in every industry. And how does an organization that sells products or services improve their top line? Well, they sell more product, or they
Mhm.
gain new customers, or they add more product lines. There are many other ways, but some of the most obvious ways, I think, are that they move the needle. Some of the ways that move the needle the farthest, I would say, all depend on the company's sales force. So if a company's salespeople aren't motivated properly, if their comp plans aren't designed effectively, the company won't get optimal performance. And
Right.
even worse, right? If comp plans are designed poorly, this actually has a demotivating effect on individuals
Mhm.
and creates the wrong behaviors.
Mhm.
So, what I've learned in many of my years at SAP and as an effective incentive strategy will take into consideration lots of different factors, right? Who are the sellers or revenue generators in the organization? It's important to first understand who generates the revenue in the company and what roles do they hold, right? How many are there? Because not all revenue generators are sellers and not all sellers are revenue generators, right?
Right.
It's a
Right.
kind of a nebulous term these days. Um, and I think you also have to understand what are you selling. The company has to understand, well, what products or services are they promoting the most? Which ones do they want to promote the most?
Mhm.
Salespeople typically have territories. How are these territories being defined? How are they being assigned? How effectively is geography, skill set, and other attributes taken into consideration? What are the goals or targets? Are those defined from the top down, or is there any refinement from the bottom up? So there's lots of different things that companies take into consideration, but overall, regardless of the role, it's absolutely a motivating factor in terms of how salespeople perform. Really, the
Right.
question is, okay, well, how are they getting paid? That's
Mhm.
the first
Right.
question.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Very
Yeah,
important.
yeah, indeed.
And I think it's just human nature, right? It's
Right.
not even so much it's salespeople. It's just wherever people are paid and incentivized, that's where they lean to.
Exactly, right? And
Hmm.
so the phrase incentive drives behavior really applies to lots of different areas. In fact, I joke with my kids about it. I'm like, well, hey, incentive drives behavior. If you're going to get a reward at the end of this, then it's going to drive your behavior up front. And
Yes.
it's so
Yep.
true.
And you have to do it with kids too. I mean, I did it with my kids. I know my kids do it with their kids. It's just
Exactly.
a cycle that's part of life. No,
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah,
great.
it's
That's
it's
great.
you're right, it's human nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what challenges you faced in your career and what have you done to overcome them?
So this is a great question too, because I mean, they're all great questions. Getting pitted against your colleagues to create a competitive marketplace in order to identify a winner based on criteria that may or may not be relevant to the jobs, and when criteria favors one individual over another, that isn't a great motivating practice for any leader in any company. But
Right.
I was put in that situation, and it kind of created confusion for me,
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty for my team, and a lack of trust, in leadership at all levels, and the list kind of goes on. So, needless to say, I was the one who lost the kind of forced competition. So in that situation, I kind of just decided I'm going to do my job. Sure, I'm pitted against my colleague, but I'm just going to go and do my job, or the job that I was given at the time. And I may have made a different decision today, but in hindsight,
Mm-hmm.
that was actually the right move. So I just did the modified job I was given, and I did it with everything I had, partially to prove to my leaders that I can do it, but also to prove to myself. And I ended up sacrificing a lot in my personal life, but I performed really well at that job, and my leaders noticed, and I got promoted, and that gave me some really nice momentum and set me up for the next phase in my career. So
That's
I'm
really
not.
great. It's very
Yeah.
difficult to do that in that situation. So I give you a lot of
Hmm.
credit for that.
Yeah, thank you. And the answer is different for everyone. Somebody might ask, well, should I just do that? Should I put my head down and just pull forward? And the answer isn't necessarily a clean yes or no. It really depends, right, on your circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
So you overcame that very,
Hmm.
very well. And I'm sure what did it teach you?
It taught me a couple of things. One, you always have to ask a question if you're not sure. Don't assume you know the answer. Just ask the question, and if you get the answer you're expecting, then
Yep.
what do you have to lose? If you get a
Mm-hmm.
different answer from what you're expecting, it could either force you to pivot even more, which
Mm-hmm.
eventually will be a life skill that you'll cherish. Or if you get the answer you were expecting, or I think it really depends on kind of your mindset at the time, right? And so it definitely taught me to keep an open mind, ask questions, and sometimes look at the bigger picture, because what's right there in front of you might not be the answer. It might be something bigger than that. And I know it's hard advice to give somebody when they're faced with a certain challenge right then and there, but play a little chess with the players that you're given, and and follow a successful chess move and see where it takes you. You might lose,
Exactly.
but sometimes you might win. But the losing part will give you some experience, right? To
Learning, yes,
take to
yes.
the
Every
yeah.
every time we lose, we learn,
Hmm.
and we should use that as learning ability to take
Right.
us to that next step. And I love what
Absolutely.
you said about looking at the bigger picture. If you can put yourself into somebody else's shoes and look at it from their lens, it
Right.
makes a big difference.
Hmm.
Because from your lens, it looks one way and it might not feel good, but if you have that open mind and look at from the leader's lens and from other people's lens, how does this look? I think you might get a whole new learning experience.
Yeah, yeah. And when I asked somebody what should I do in that situation, in my challenging past, and
Mhm.
the advice I got was exactly somebody looking at the bigger picture, and they told me, what if you just did what you're asked to do? Sometimes
Mhm.
it's like, oh, why should I
Yeah.
just do what I'm asked to do? I don't want to conform. But it's
Mhm.
not necessarily conforming. Sometimes you are actually taking your future into consideration, and you
Right.
are taking that next big step. So
I'm so glad
um,
you said that because
yeah.
sometimes people don't realize that. They think, oh, I'm just giving in and I'm like a rubber band or
Mhm.
just a pillow that just conforms. But no,
Right.
you learn from it and it's
Yeah.
good. It's good to have that skill.
Right.
Great. Well,
100%.
that's great. Yep. So, this podcast is focused around bridging the culture, pay, and employment gap for women in tech. What are you seeing in the industry today from your lens?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there are pockets where we are making progress, but
Mhm.
collectively, I think we still have a way to go.
I agree.
Uh,
Agree.
I mean, I'm pleased to see more women in tech roles, such as data scientists or fintech or software developers. I'd love to see more women in AI and information security. And as far as bridging the gap with pay equity, I don't think we're there yet. There are many examples of women doing the same job and getting paid less. So I think we need to improve there
Yes.
as an ecosystem, right?
Mhm.
While childcare might conceptually be split between both parents these days, I think it's still largely one parent's responsibility, and that can impact the career. And
Mhm.
usually it's the woman's responsibility and
Yep.
it could impact her career.
Mhm.
And it's still the woman that tends to make the bigger sacrifice. And I'm sorry
Mhm.
for all the examples out there that where that's not true. I'm absolutely sure there are examples where that's not true, but there are lots of examples where that
That are
still is
true. Yeah.
true. Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the
Yeah,
woman just takes on that responsibility always. We
right.
just do that. We're conditioned to do that. We're nurturing. We pull in more towards us than we need to, really.
Yeah, and they still have to be present at work, and they still have
Hmm.
to be present in their families, and they still have to be
Right.
present in running the home. So
Hmm.
it's a challenge still. Certain demographics might be better than others, but it's a gap and it's a moving target that we have to try and chase.
Yeah, I think, anything we can do to help that bridge that gap. I think there's still a gap and there's a lot for us to do. But
Mhm.
I've realized through the pandemic that just little things sometimes make a difference. I don't have to boil the
Yes,
entire ocean. I can do
right.
one little step, and this podcast is one of them, just to
Absolutely.
say, okay, by one person at a time, I'm going to make changes and influence. If I influence one woman a day with this podcast, now I've got the numbers, coming in.
I love that. Yeah, not about boiling the ocean. It's about raising the awareness step by step, and I think
That's
that's
it.
key. Hmm.
Yeah, that's it. That's so important because
Yeah.
we have so much to offer, but we don't give ourselves enough credit. We really don't. And so the more confidence we can give from these sessions, it's so important. And I love the things that you've done because you've really gone through those challenges firsthand and come out, on the better side. So
Well,
great job.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's just so important to keep elevating that message and keep getting some little wins out there for
Yeah,
women
I
in this
agree.
industry.
So, do you think there's a glass ceiling of leadership for women? If so, what are some of the things women can do to overcome that?
There is a glass ceiling, and the ceiling moves. As mentioned
Mm-hmm.
earlier, it's a moving target, and raising
Mm-hmm.
awareness is totally the key. Helping elevate and connect women in their professional journeys. What you're doing, I think, is fantastic, because, like you said, if you influence one woman at a time with the podcast, they'll influence more women, and so on, and that helps them build their brand. It's so important. I'd actually like to share something with our listeners. I am a member of the women's professional leadership organization called W North,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also city director of their New York chapter. And the organization really strives to help elevate women in professional and leadership roles, just providing great opportunities to connect and mentor and learn and share experiences and helping to bridge the gender and power gap and helps women in executive and leadership roles break that glass ceiling. It really is a forum, like many others out there, that raises awareness, brings the key topics front and center, you know, gets those important questions asked and establishes stakeholders, right, in the parts of the ecosystem that need to be our force multipliers to get the message out even
Mm-hmm.
further.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's so true.
Hmm.
Okay, so here's a tough question now for you.
Yeah.
This is something that I struggle with, but again, how do you balance homework? Please share with our listeners what works for you or some ideas that you've implemented that have really made a difference, because we can all learn from this.
Absolutely. And this is a topic that goes way back for me. I am a proud mother of two, a son and a
Mhm.
daughter. They're both in
Nice.
college now.
Oh, wow.
So I've got more time on my hands. But
Hmm.
when they were in grade
Empty
school,
nester, huh?
yeah, exactly, an empty nester. What do I do with my time? When they were in grade school, I should say, that's when I was going through some upheavals at work, and I sacrificed a lot of time with my family to be more present at work. I traveled all over the world and wasn't really at home as much as I wanted to be, and
Yeah.
also going through a divorce at the same time. So that added exponential challenges. So, I think in hindsight, I should have just been more prescriptive with carving out some time. Let's say, even if I'm, 10,000 miles away in another city, take some time and just open up your mind, meditate. That doesn't mean you have to be spiritual. It just means sit and open up your thoughts. Just sitting quietly, clear your thoughts, regroup with yourself. It gives you clarity to address things that are important and to clear the noise out of your head. That's just noise, because most of the
Really hard
time,
to do.
yeah, we struggle with, okay, there's so much noise. What do I address first? But if I got the noise out of my head, it would have helped me focus on, when I get back home, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend this much time with my kids. I'm going to take them here. I'm going to take them there. I'm going to build the bridges that I, should have built before. And I think just setting aside a few minutes a day to do that, of course, just being physically active, and it's just great for health and wellness reasons. Anyone who's struggling with balancing home and career probably are thinking, I have no time to go exercise, but really 5 minutes and just walk around your house and at the same time clear your head. It makes so much difference.
I think little things, you
Yeah,
don't need hours and hours to do any of it, but 10
exactly.
minutes to meditate and just sit with yourself and just clear your head is so important. It gives you so much freedom then for the next thing. It's amazing.
It does. And I think networking is another thing I'll say. Just making connections. There are a lot of people out there who are going through similar struggle. So when you find people that are in your camp, they'll help you get through some of the most difficult times. That's what I didn't have. I didn't establish a network, and I wish I had done that. So I think establishing a network of your peers, just anywhere, personal connections, professional connections, mothers or fathers of other kids that your kids are friends with, any connections help you discuss those challenges and
Absolutely.
understand that you're not the only one going through this.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing to, if I asked you to give advice to our listeners for, joining a tech and career, a career in tech, sorry. One of the big things there is to create a network for yourself. So that you have people who support you and they're champions for you, whether it's male or female, doesn't matter. And you need both. You do need both. It's really, really important to build that network.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
And
absolutely right.
people in my, generation may see others that are younger as, oh, we're the ones who are supposed to give the advice, but keep your mind open, I would say. Keep an open mind with who can be in your network, and who can be a sounding board, a listener. And that's very important.
Yeah. So great advice on balancing, because it's really hard, and things that you've learned are great lessons for others not to do, not to take time for themselves, even if it's 10 minutes a day, to focus on meditation, to focus on your network, to focus on the things that are important. If you write down your values and then you realize how they tie into everything you do, it makes a very big difference. I've learned that over the years in business, just to have the values for the business, and then everything you do has to tie to those, whether it's family, it's business, it's ethics, it's all of those things.
Yeah. And don't suffer from imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people are doing that. You have more experience and more credentials than and don't discount them so easily.
Sell yourself short.
Exactly.
Right. Absolutely. Very, very true. Okay, so now this next question is a selfish question, because I'm building my bucket list of places to go. And so where is your most favorite place that you've traveled to, and why?
Oh, so many places. So many amazing places I've traveled to for work. Singapore, Sydney, Arizona, Vancouver, And I
I
have
love
to
that you
say,
throw Arizona in there. I
yes.
love that.
One of my favorite places is Arizona, and I have to say Sedona especially.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Love the culture and just the
Atmosphere,
the
yeah.
vibe, the atmosphere.
Hmm.
Singapore is fantastic. I've been there a few times for work. It's just like a city and a garden all in one,
I want to
clean
do
and
that.
vibrant. Yeah, love the culture and
On
the
my
food and the
list. Yep.
parks.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Have you been to Dubai?
I have not. No, I'd love to
Ah,
go
okay.
there.
That's another one on my list too.
Hmm.
Singapore and Dubai are big on my list because
Yeah.
I just want to feel that atmosphere,
Yes.
because I
Yes.
hear it's amazing. So
It's amazing. It's a long flight, but
yeah,
it's worth it. It's worth it.
yeah,
I love
that's where I have to
Sydney.
convince my husband to
Yeah.
fly because he does not like long flights. So
Yeah. You'll
so
have to
yep,
find a way to break it up and visit multiple
yep,
places at once.
yep. Have to do that. That's great.
Yeah.
So why is Arizona your favorite or Singapore your favorite? Why? What's the
Yeah.
reasons? Because I
You know,
believe,
mhm, yeah.
atmosphere is big and who you're with and what you do is
Yeah.
also a big part of why. So tell me what yours is.
So I'll give you as an example, and I'll use both. I'll use Arizona and Singapore. They're so different in terms of just environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, I love that Southwest kind of vibe. And it generates to me just this mystical positivity. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a positive frame of mind, and it may sound cliche, it may sound corny, but when you're in a positive frame of mind, you feel like you can do anything. You feel
Right?
like
Right?
there's nothing really holding you
Limits.
back.
Yep.
You can just
Yep. Yep.
go for it.
Yep.
Um, and Singapore, for the same reasons, but it's also vibrant, full of plants. I love plants. I love gardens. Whenever I'm walking through a garden, I get overjoyed. I have about 100 plants in my apartment. And Singapore is like a giant garden. And when I'm there, it's just, the air is so fresh and it makes you really feel very positive. So when you feel positive, you feel like you can do really good things. And especially when you're there traveling for work or personal reasons, it generates a positivity to kind of carry you through your day and your work that you're there for, or your personal issue that you're there, or personal reasons that you're there, not issue, but reasons that you're there for. So it just generates a lot of positivity. Um,
Love that.
and yeah, I just think it's well worth the long flight.
Well, Rupal, this has been such a pleasure to talk to you and share your experiences with our listeners.
Thank you,
Thank you. It's been
Jennifer.
a pleasure and an honor to have you
Yeah.
on my show. So if you could share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I am active on LinkedIn. Reach
Okay.
out to Rupal Parikh on LinkedIn. I check it often. I'm also active on Instagram for a more personal connection. Rupal Parikh 26 is my handle. Or feel free to just shoot me an email, rparikh26@yahoo.com. And any and all of those ways, I would love to hear from your listeners. And Jennifer, thank you so much for having me. I was honored to be asked to participate and thoroughly enjoyed talking to you today. Thank you so much.
You've been such a pleasure to have on the show. I know our listeners will enjoy listening to you every time. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you, Rupal.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tech in the Right Direction. Please take a minute to subscribe or follow so that you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.
From IT skill enhancements to end user adoption training, Directions Training is your resource to help optimize the effectiveness of your technology investments. Over 500,000 students have taken advantage of our wide selection of technology and business training solutions covering the most popular applications today, such as Microsoft 365, Azure, Windows 10, and more. As a podcast listener, we invite you to take advantage of an exclusive offer. Receive 30 days of free access to our Microsoft official curriculum on-demand courses for IT professionals or end users. Visit us at www.directionstraining.com/podcast to claim this offer today. Hurry, this offer is only available for a limited time. Success is a journey. Ask for directions.